Mom, I want a vape.
So most of us are pretty familiar with people like Ben Shapiro and their stance on capitalism. And speaking of Ben Shapiro, we probably have all heard that infamous quote he said lately, which went along the lines of this, when he said,
well, the fact is that if you had to work more than one job to have a roof over your head or food on the table, you probably shouldn't have taken the job that's not paying you enough. That'd be a you problem. Also, it is not true that the vast majority of people in the United States are working two jobs. It just is not true. According to the census statistics, a small but steady number of American workers have more than one job because either they need extra income or because they want to gain more experience or explore different interests.
Now, this sort of mindset comes from one of delusion or one of insane privilege, where you have to be someone like Ben Shapiro, as wealthy and as educated as him, that you can just shop around for any job you want, you know, a job that will give you the best benefits and pay you the most. That is the world Ben Shapiro lives in. Not that some people have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet, because that is the situation capitalism has forced them in. Now, for the purpose of this video, I want to take another Ben Shapiro quote, and I was thinking about this quote the other day and I was wondering when he said it, so I just typed it in. It's apparently one he constantly trots out, because I found numerous examples, but most recently he was talking or tweeting at AOC, and he said that the free market has raised hundreds of millions from abject poverty. And you hear this type of argument a lot from the right wing and from libertarians, and when you say something like, well, what about kids in Bangladesh who make Nike trainers, who get paid, I don't know, like $1, less than $1 a day? What about them? Surely that's exploitation. Surely that's not raising that of poverty. And people will say, well, even though they're not being paid that much, it's still giving them a job, and they wouldn't have that job without capitalism. They wouldn't have this job without the corporation coming into their area. And this just makes their life a little bit better, because what would they be doing without it? Now, of course, another facet of his argument that, you know, the free market lifts us all up together is rubbish, because the only way the Western countries have so much power is because we exploit the poorer ones. That is the way capitalism works. We couldn't be as rich as we are without destroying other countries, because as we know, there is enough resources, there is enough wealth for everyone in the world. But why do we have so much of it in the West, in America, in the UK, in Europe, while other countries, whether that's Central Asia, whether that's parts of Africa, the Middle East, have so little? This is not an accident, this is by design. This isn't because these countries haven't benefited from capitalism. It's because they're working within a capitalist system where there is a winner and a loser. And on a global scale, Western countries and countries like them, they're the winners, and the other countries that are a lot poorer are the losers. But in a more micro scale, of course, you can see lots of losers, pretty much most of us, in these countries. So you have a small percent of winners, and the rest of us are losers. And that is just the way capitalism works. But to make my argument crystal clear, I think I need to use a case study. So I'm going to use one of Ethiopian workers who make Calvin Kleins. But before we dive into the rest of the video, if you guys could leave a like on this video, it would really help me out. And if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on social media, and if you're feeling generous or just want to check it out, please check out my Patreon in the description. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into the case study. So for the case study, I am going to be reading off an ABC article that does a really good job at outlining all the problems that I guess neoliberal capitalism has caused in these parts of the world. And this whole video can be a perfect rebuke to someone who is arguing with you that isn't capitalism so great for providing these really, really badly paid jobs to poorer countries. So the headline is, $26 a month, Ethiopians are being paid the world's lowest wages to make your Calvin Kleins. So James Pertil reporting, Ethiopia is trying to become the new Bangladesh of garment factory labour by promising the lowest wages in the world. But the workers themselves report they're struggling to survive on $26 a month while stitching clothes for Calvin Klein, H&M and other brands. A study from New York University's Stern Center for Business and Human Rights released this week tells an old story, the hidden cost of the fashion industry. It's also a classic story of neoliberal economic development, one that's been played out countless times since the 1990s. An impoverished country seeks foreign investment by declaring itself open for business and offers up a vast and willing labour force. Global capital, forever scouring the world for a competitive advantage, sets up shop, factories are built, and young uneducated women are recruited from agricultural villages. In 2015 to 2016, Ethiopia built the state-owned Hawassa Industrial Park, located 140 miles south of the capital. The park currently has 25,000 employees producing garments for global brands, also including Levi's, Guess and Tommy Hilfiger. An Ethiopian government brochure for potential foreign investors advertised cheap and skilled labour, 1/7 of China and a half of Bangladesh. In fact, the labour would be even cheaper. Workers are being paid $26 a month, almost a quarter of the $95 a month minimum wage in Bangladesh. So just to take a quick break here to sort of analyse what is being said, in capitalism there is sort of a race to the bottom for the elite. So you see the Ethiopian state sets up this industrial park to offer the world the cheapest labour prices for their garments. So you have, Calvin Klein, you have Levi's, and what they're saying is that we're the cheapest, come here, exploit our workers, and we're exploiting them obviously as well because we're going to get rich off this. So like I'm saying, it's a good case study of both, a micro scale of capitalism and a macro scale. You have the people in Ethiopia, the government, exploiting their people and offering them up to the giant corporations which help perpetrate global capitalism. But as I've outlined previously, a lot of people will say, well, they're getting the job. It's $26 more than they would be getting if they didn't have one. It's probably more than a local job they'd be doing. And that's great. They'll have this money and it's probably, relative to the spending in Ethiopia, it's probably all right. It probably, will help you get by. But in capitalism, this is not true. So look what happens as the wages increase, what the landlords do to the rent. So meanwhile, the influx of workers has driven up the cost of accommodation. A single bare room within a few kilometers of the park costs about $52 a month. So these workers are getting paid $26 a month. To get a single room, you need to pay $52 a month. A single room, you need to have double your monthly income. So you're seeing here why people call capitalism slavery. Is this really better than slavery? You can't even afford one room. And unlike Ben Shapiro, I'm sure a lot of these uneducated, unskilled labourers can't just shop around for the best job and the best prices. This is probably all they have. So how does this largely female workforce get around not having enough for a single room? So the report goes into a woman showing them around saying, one young woman showed us the concrete ground floor room she and 3 fellow workers rent from a homeowner. There is no toilet, only an open air latrine nearby. The woman said she and her roommates work different shifts and she's had some of her belongings stolen. Sometimes, she added, there is no food left for her when she returns from the factory. All 4 women sleep on thin mattresses on the floor, and when it rains, water seeps into the living space. Some employers hand out plastic sheets, which employees place between their mattresses and the concrete floor in an attempt to stay dry. An October 2017 survey told of workers fainting from hunger, as well as being too tired from walking 3 hours a day to come to work and go back home. The lack of energy and fainting due to the workers not eating properly because they cannot afford to eat 2 meals per day. So you've heard what I've just read. They come home to a horrible small room which they share with 3 other women. When it rains, they just basically get soaked and their apartment is rubbish. They have no working toilet. They have to walk hours every day to their jobs while also not being able to afford 2 meals a day. And people like Ben Shapiro think it's a them problem. People like Ben Shapiro think capitalism lifts these people out of poverty. No, it doesn't. It exploits them. It's a race to the bottom. And the race to the bottom is to make sure you have these nice shoes, you have these nice designer shoes, you have everything you want. The reason many Americans live in comfort is because global capitalism exploits certain parts of the world to ensure other parts stay exceedingly rich. So yes, Ben Shapiro, maybe people who go to Harvard, maybe they can launch their own podcast, maybe they can get massive backing from rich right-wing millionaires like yourself. Maybe like you, they can make themselves very, very wealthy. But for the reality of most of the human population on this earth, that just cannot happen. They are being exploited. And in the worst cases like this, it is no better really than slavery. Can you imagine your day being, you wake up in a horrible small room that you share with 3 other people, you have no working toilet, I'm pretty sure that, the showers aren't great, if there even are showers, You walk a couple hours to work, walk a couple hours to work. You go and work maybe 12 hours a day, maybe a bit more. You can't even eat 2 meals a day. And then you walk home to the little room you share with 3 other people. You do that every single day because you can't even afford a single room of your wages. And to all the people who think, the corporations, aren't they great? They're going to these countries and giving these people new jobs. A lot of these workers came from farms, and I'm not saying farms are definitely better. If they own the farms, then I think they'd probably rather work there. They had the fruits of their own labour. If they're working for a bigger farm owned by other people, I can understand why they might move to somewhere like this industrial park looking for work. It's not a great situation all around, but at the same time, one is showcasing modern capitalism as it has always worked. So as a final point, yes, Ben Shapiro and you horrible conservatives who think capitalism is great. Yes, for you and your rich buddies, it might have provided you with a lot of opportunity, especially in a country like America. But the reason America is so wealthy because in America, it exploits its own people for profit, and across the world, American corporations exploit the rest of the world for profit. And that is why America is so rich. It's not because capitalism is raising loads of people out of poverty, it's because rich people are screwing over the poorest to make them even more wealthy. If you can't understand this, you are just living in some insanely privileged bubble. So let me know what you guys think about the video. If you want to find me on social media, follow me at The Tabernacle on both Twitter and Instagram. Like I said before, maybe check out my Patreon in the description, and thank you to all my patrons. I'm super grateful for all of you. I also have a WordPress blog where I just write some stuff, so maybe check that out in the description as well. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.